Welcome to this edition of the Maths and English webinar. This presentation is focused on the journey from registration to results for functional skills English and Maths at levels 1 and 2. There is a lot of information contained in this session, and we hope that we've answered all the questions you might have about the processes. But if there is something you think we've missed or not covered here or in the Q&A document, please email preemployment@cityandguilds.com and we will attempt to answer for you.
This presentation is for exams teams, admin and any staff who will deal with any of the administration side of Level 1 and Level 2 functional skills exams. Just to make you aware, this is a longer than usual webinar with a lot of information to digest, as we appreciate you may need to refer back to this recording or the slides. So for the purpose, we have included a lot of details in the slideshow. So during this webinar, we will be covering centre requirements, instructions for conducting exams, registrations, booking exams, flexibility of exams, paper-based exam administration, claiming results, obtaining and using performance feedback.
So let's start at the very beginning. No, I'm not going to burst into song, but what do we require centres to have in place in order that they can deliver functional skills? If you're not already offering City and Guilds qualifications, you will need to gain centre approval, and all centres will need to apply for qualification approval to deliver functional skills. When we talk about resource requirements, this is about the staff involved in teaching these qualifications who must be competent in the subject. That is, they must have a detailed understanding of the specifications and assessment requirements and be familiar with the City and Guilds Centre Manual. For functional skills, there is no requirement to hold specific or subject specialism. However, staff must be secure in their own personal literacy and numeracy skills, and centres are expected to support continuing professional development. We support centres in the delivery of these qualifications with teaching and learning materials such as SmartScreen and E-functional skills, as well as running regional network events and online virtual link-ups to provide ongoing support.
For internal assessment key roles, centres must ensure each of the following roles are fulfilled: Head of Centre, Centre Contact, Internal Quality Assurance Coordinator, and Qualification Coordinator and Assessor. For external assessment, to meet assessment conduct requirements, each centre must have these roles in place: Head of Centre, Exams Officer and Invigilators. Just to add to this, we are aware that in smaller providers it may be one person covering multiple roles. Now we move on to conducting exams and assessments. We have two key documents that everyone delivering and administrating functional skills exams should be familiar with: the instructions for conducting exams, or ICE document as we like to call it, and the Assessor guidance for speaking, listening and communicating. Both of these can be found on the 4748 qualification page.
The ICE document is the go-to guide for all the requirements around invigilating Level 1 and 2 functional skills reading, writing and mathematics exams for both paper and on screen. It contains the specifications for storing and transporting paper exams and includes the exam audit criteria and guidance around choosing an invigilator. The requirements for invigilation of functional skills exams are very specific around who can or cannot invigilate candidates during their exam, and this is described in more detail in the document. There is also a section which describes how to manage the use of calculators in maths for both on-screen and paper-based exams. We've now removed the adaptations for COVID-19. However, we did retain the ability to move an exam date for individual candidates instead of having to change the date for the whole cohort that you booked. We've recently updated the ICE document and there have been some amendments, so it is important to make sure that you're working from the latest version. Please check our qualification page to ensure that you are using the most recent version, although we do send out an email update when we make changes to key documents. So again, you should make sure that you've signed up to receive functional skills updates in the email preference centre.
In the Assessor guidance for speaking, listening and communicating, each level has its own set of guidance and it contains the subject content statements which the candidates are being assessed against. There is an amplification on how each activity must be designed, guidance for the assessor about how the activity must be carried out. There are examples of what evidence is acceptable, instructions about the requirements for remote assessment of speaking, listening and communicating activities which must be recorded, including how the recordings must be labelled. Centres also need to be aware that their external quality assurer, their EQA, will be required to observe a live speaking and listening and communicating activity as part of their annual monitoring activity. This can be done either in the centre, that's a face-to-face assessment, or where assessments occur remotely. The EQA can be invited to join the meeting and observe the activity and the subsequent assessment by the assessor. It is best to discuss planning with your SLC dates with your EQA, just so you have planned for the monitoring effectively.
The next step on the functional skills journey is registering learners. All learners must be registered for their functional skills qualifications before they start learning and before any assessment takes place. The qualification codes for registration are as follows: 4748-02 for Level 1 or Level 2 Functional Skills English, or 4748-04 for Level 1 or Level 2 Functional Skills Mathematics. In order to register candidates, you need to go to the walled garden catalogue and select the Orders link.
Once on the Orders page, choose the Named Registration tab at the top. Then enter the candidate's name, date of birth and gender. Just to add a really important point here, you must ensure that the spelling of the candidate's name and their date of birth and gender are accurate, as this can cause duplicate candidates and errors on certificates. There is also a drop-down menu at the bottom which opens a page to add the candidate's email address and their unique learning number. On the optional details screen, it is important to add the candidate's email address here so they can receive their digital credential. Including an accurate ULN allows candidate achievement to be uploaded to their records on the national database, which is key for apprentices. Once all information has been entered accurately, click on Add New Candidate.
Once you've done this, you'll get a pop-up notice. If you need to register further candidates, then select Yes, otherwise choose No. When you select No, you have the opportunity to make amendments to errors or delete duplicate entries here. Otherwise, click on View Basket. On the Order Summary page, there is a final chance to edit or remove or add candidates. Otherwise, select Continue. The next screen refers to the options for configuring certificates. This does not apply to functional skills exams. In fact, it only applies to ILM, assured and endorsed products. So just click on Continue.
Then the billing address screen will appear. Here it will show the address of the centre. Where there is more than one address, you need to select the correct one from the drop-down. Then click on Continue to move on. Next, on the payment screen, you will need to enter a centre reference. This could relate to your internal process number, for example, or a class or cohort name. This is to assist you to identify groups of candidates. Once you have entered your internal reference, click on Buy Now.
On the final screen, the candidate will be allocated an enrolment number. The order will be emailed to your centre's email address, but there is an opportunity here to have a duplicate confirmation sent and to print the page. Congratulations, your candidate has been registered.
Now moving on to the booking of levels 1 and 2. This is a big section, but the good news is we do pass the halfway point during it. Once the learner is ready to take their functional skills exams, there are two options. Paper-based exams, which are ordered through Wallgarden. The exam date and time must be a minimum of 14 days in the future. Exam papers are delivered to centre's registered address. Once candidates have taken the exam, the completed scripts are returned to the address on the prepaid envelope for scanning and marking. Results are then released into Wallgarden. With on-screen exams, they are booked through Wallgarden. You have the option of face-to-face invigilation in the centre, where exams are available within 30 minutes of booking, and the centre uploads the exam once the candidate has finished, or RI, remote invigilation, which is our remotely invigilated service through our TALView system. With this option, exams must be booked 5 working days ahead. There is more information available on the RI page on the web page. So you can just click here to follow the link.
Once you've chosen the qualification, now you need to select the unit that you need to book the exam for. This will also include the level and, for English, the component. If you know the 7-digit product code, you can just type it in the search box. Alternatively, you can scroll through the list shown at the bottom of the page and tick the relevant order box. You will need to give a date and a time for the exam and show it in the format given, and select the quantity of exams that you're booking. This will need to match the quantity of papers and candidates in the next section, so take care here.
Just to reiterate, you must give 14 days notice when booking paper-based exams. If you give a date less than 14 days in the future, you will see a pop-up. This will inform you of the earliest exam date. Once you have chosen the exam you wish to book, you need to link the candidates to the booking. You can search for a candidate or candidates from your centre in a number of ways from the drop-down list.
Once you've selected all the candidates who you want to book for this exam, click on Update Order. As I said earlier, the number of candidates in this order must match the quantity of bookings that you gave in the assessment selection. You can add more candidates here by searching for more candidates and adding them to the order. But if you don't have the number of candidates to match the original assessment selection, you will not be able to progress and will have to cancel your order and start again. On the next screen, you confirm the product code, in this case 210 for level 1 reading, by ticking in the box and selecting Continue.
Moving on to the checkout screen, you will need to re-enter your internal reference number here. Once you have clicked on Submit Order, you cannot change or amend. If there is an issue, please contact Customer Services.
The final confirmation will show the delivery group for the exams. If there have been a number of bookings for your centre within a short period of time, they will be allocated to the same delivery group.
Now let us look at booking E-volve on-screen exams. As mentioned earlier, on-screen E-volve exams are booked in Wallgarden through the catalogue and click on the E-volve scheduling link.
Once you've selected the appropriate exam, you'll need Find Candidates to add to the order. You can search for candidates using their details such as their name or date of birth, or by using the cohort that they belong to, or by using their City and Guilds enrolment number. Just select the required option from the drop-down list.
In this case, we chose an individual enrolment number, so on the next screen we entered the candidate enrolment number and clicked on Search. The search returned the candidate and added them to the order. Then click on the Continue button.
Now you need to book the specific unit or assessment for the candidates you have in the order. You can select the qualification from the drop-down list. It's important to note that you will only see qualifications that the candidate has a valid registration for. So if the assessment you are trying to book is not in the list, you will need to cancel this booking and go back and register them for the qualification. there are no qualifications in the drop-down, it's worth checking that the organisation box at the top left, marked with 2 red asterisks, says City and Guilds and not ILM.
Next, select the unit, the date and the time of the exam. This can be the day you are making the booking or further ahead. We recommend no further than 6 months in advance. If booking for the same day, the time must be a full half an hour ahead. You then enter the installation ID and select from the invigilation type, Centre Invigilated or our Remote Invigilated service.
When you click on the Show button on the right hand side, this drops down to reveal a box which contains the alternative exam location and the additional time box. You are able to book up to 50% extra time here, but you will have to give the reason for allowing this adjustment. Clicking on the plus button allows you to book additional exams. Should your candidate have exceeded all available versions of the exams, you will still be able to book at this stage, but the system will reject the booking in the final stages. As mentioned in the last slide, if you're booking additional time, you will have to select the reason from a list. If your candidate suffers from dyslexia, choose the Learning Difficulties option. We are aware that dyslexia isn't a learning difficulty and recognise that this is not a sensitive option. Sadly, Walled Garden is an old system and it hasn't been possible for us to amend this list.
If you have added additional time for the candidate, you will see a pop-up which asks if you have the evidence which allows the adjustment to be made. It is important to ensure that the steps outlined in the Access to Assessment and Qualifications document have been followed. This document can be found in our Centre document library, which can be found under Qualification Delivery and then Centre Development.
The next screen is the checkout screen. As with paper-based exams, you will have to enter the reference code in order to allow you to identify the order from within your centre. Select Update Order.
The next screen is the order confirmation page. Once you click Submit, you cannot amend the order. If you identify any errors or need to cancel, please contact our customer services team who will be able to assist you.
It is good practice to go back in and check that your orders have been placed correctly, and it's also possible to obtain the key codes and PIN numbers for the E-volve exam. To do this, select the Reports tab in Walled Garden and then choose Orders. Select the relevant qualification for the period last week and search. The order number is a link.
The link takes you to this page, which will list all the bookings that have been accepted for that order. If you click on the details icon, the drop-down will show the key code and PIN that will be needed for the exam. The user ID is the PIN and the password is the key code. It is possible to print these from the E-volve Secure Assess as part of the Invigilator packs.
Are you still with us? Good. The next thing we want to cover is the flexibility in exam sittings. Firstly, paper-based exams. When you book paper-based exams, you have to provide a date and a time for the exam, giving a minimum of 14 days notice. If it is necessary to change this date, for example, should the candidate or the invigilator not be available, it is permitted to move the exam day and time up to 5 days before or 5 days after the original date. Should this be necessary, you will need to notify City and Guilds in advance using the exam date form on the website, and there is a link to this on the Functional Skills landing page. Exam dates can be moved for individual candidates on the attendance register instead of the whole cohort. It's important to note that payment for paper-based functional skills exams occurs at the point at which you book the exam.
On-screen exams, which are invigilated by the Centre, can be booked in Walled Garden and be ready in E-volve Secure Assess for the candidate to sit within 30 minutes, as we mentioned earlier. When booking, you specify an exam date and time. Should you need to, this can be moved up to 10 calendar days before or after the original date. Again, you would need to notify City and Guilds through the exam change form. Payment for E-volve exams occur when the candidate enters the key code. For information about remote invigilation service, please see the RI guides. Here we move on to the exam administration section, and well done to you if you've made it this far. You'll be pleased to hear the finish line is in sight. Centres must be able to demonstrate and account for the receipt, secure movement and secure storage of confidential exam materials at all times. When opening packs of question papers, in order to avoid potential breaches of security, care must be taken to ensure the correct question paper packs are opened. An additional member of centre and member of staff must check the day, time, date, subject level and component immediately before a question paper pack is opened. Where orders for cohorts of candidates have been split, centres will receive different versions of the question paper for the same exam. The invigilator must make sure candidates sit the version allocated to them. If a candidate sits the incorrect version of the exam, City and Guilds may not be able to process their results.
E-volve on-screen exam administration. To ensure smooth running of E-volve Functional Skills exams, we recommend booking and sitting a navigation test ahead of the first exam to ensure that Secure Client works correctly the first time it's installed. If you book an E-volve on-screen exam but then discover that it's not going ahead, perhaps the candidate is not available within the 10-day window for flexibility, it is very important to void the exam in the E-volve Secure Assess platform. Whilst this should be done for all on-screen exams, it's particularly important for functional skills mathematics exams because you may find when you come to book a further exam for the candidate that there are no more versions available for the candidate to take, as the system is holding a version of the exam for the booking which can only be released when the candidate is marked absent or the booking is voided. For functional skills maths, there are 2 papers per candidate, section 1 and section 2. It's mandatory that candidates complete both sections from the same version and that versions are not mixed. Should the candidate sit section 1 and section 2 from different versions, it may not be possible for us to mark the paper. And where City and Guilds does provide this service, there will be a delay in the issue of results and may be additional cost to the centre. As each learner is only permitted to see each version of the paper once, cases where centres give candidates mixed versions creates an additional barrier, removing both of these versions from availability should a resit be required. And should a candidate exhaust all available versions of the exam, they will have to wait until a new version of the exam is released. Alternatively, they can take the exam by alternative mode, such as paper-based for an on-screen candidate.
Now moving on to post-exam assessment processes. Once the on-screen E-volve exam has been uploaded in Secure Assess, or for paper-based exams, the completed script is received at City and Guilds for scanning. It is then sent for marking. While our agreed time frame for releasing results is 32 working days, this is to take into account the need for new versions of exam papers to undergo the awarding process. We aim to issue the results within 20 working days under normal circumstances. The reality is that we regularly beat our 20 working day aspiration, and the average results issue for functional skills, maths and English at level 1 and 2 is currently at 7.1 days. For functional skills English, once the reading and writing exams are achieved and the centre claims the speaking, listening, communicating module in walled garden, the system automatically issues a certificate. Where City and Guilds have been provided with the candidate's email address, a digital credential is issued and an email is sent to the candidate for them to accept it.
It is critical, once a candidate has completed their on-screen exam, that it is uploaded to E-volve. We've noticed that a number of centres recently have failed to do this. There is a strict time window to complete this action. This can be checked by ensuring the exam has a green tick in the State column on the Invigilate page in Secure Assess. The orange arrow indicates that an exam is awaiting upload. Any exam which is not uploaded within the 30 days of the original exam date are voided and they cannot be marked. The contents of the exam and the candidate's response are deleted and they are not available for City and Guilds to recover. So the exam has taken place. How do you find out how your candidates have performed? Paper-based results. Once the paper has been marked, the pass or fail results appear on walled garden. A paper certificate is generated and issued within 10 working days. It is possible to have an e-certificate for functional skills, which can be downloaded from your walled garden account if your centre has been set up to use this facility. Also, if your centre has opted in on the centre preferences to receive notification of candidate results for their learners, they will be issued an overall results list. On-screen results. Once marked, Secure Assess will show a provisional score, but this is subject to a review of marking, so should not be revealed to a candidate. Once the review is completed, then the final result will flow through to walled garden. Where the candidate's result has been adjusted following a review, the final result will appear in walled garden, but the results in E-volve will not be changed to reflect any adjustment, and this and the score report will reflect the provisional mark and the original marking, and it's not possible for us to amend these.
Just checking that you're still with us. It's just the last bit now. We're now on to performance feedback. Now, unfortunately, candidates are not always successful in their attempt at reading, writing or mathematics at level 1 or 2 and need to be entered for a resit. It is then vital that candidates receive further teaching to remedy the areas that need development before they are re-entered. And to do this, centres need to access the performance feedback. City and Guilds provides feedback for both on-screen and paper-based exams. For on-screen exams, a score report is issued with a breakdown of how the candidate has performed across the exam. For paper-based exams, a notification of candidates' results is issued with the result and a series of performance codes mapped to the functional skills subject content statements, which are explained in our guide available on the 4748 qualification page. A link is on the slide. In addition, both on-screen and paper-based feedback is available through the Centre Analytics platform, and just to reiterate, these are the provisional scores, not the final pass or fail that appears in walled garden. If you already do on-screen E-volve exams, you may already have a Centre Analytics account, as it is the same login details. However, if you only do paper-based exams, you will need to have an account to set up. You can do this by emailing centresupport@cityandguilds.com, and our customer service team will create a paper functional skills account for you to review the performance of your individual learners as well as the whole centre level.
To obtain centre performance reports in Analytics, you need to navigate to the Test History tab, number 1 on this diagram. Select the Start Date range and the End Date range. Enter your ID, so your centre number, and the qualification that you're looking for. Select the search button, and then when you get the results, select the exam that you're interested in and click on the plus button to expand the detail, and choose the blue link that says Select Centre Performance. The report will open and can be saved, printed or downloaded. This will need to be repeated per installation ID and per exam, and it can also be done for individual learners.
In terms of further support as a technical advisor, we work nationally and cover maths and English and ICT functional skills. We offer a host of sessions, both in person and online, and some of these include onboarding, which is to support you to get up and running, networks to support you and encourage sharing of best practice, webinars to keep you up to date monthly and provide ongoing support, and we do also offer bespoke support as needed. You can simply contact us using the pre-employment@sittinggills.com email. Thank you for taking the time for listening to this webinar. We know it was quite a lengthy one, but we hope the information was really useful. If you do have any further questions, you can contact us on the pre-employment@sittinggills.com email address. We hope to see you in our next webinar on the 14th of November, where we will be focusing on our 3847 bite-sized qualifications. So we hope to see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.